Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zach Falconer-Barfield. I am the co-founder and first gentleman at The Perfect Gentleman. It's relevant to what I talk about today, which is chivalry. So chivalry is an old word. It means now something different than what it meant originally. So what it means now is actually most people associate chivalry with being courteous towards women, which is part of what it was in the old times. But I'm going to give you a potted history of how chivalry came about, and then how it sort of failed, and then what we can do in the modern world to make chivalry come back. So I'm going to give you a Hollywoodized version of history. I apologize, but it's just simple. So let's go back to 1066, and England was invaded by the Normans. King William the Conqueror came in and he took away the Anglo-Saxon army and a battle in Hastings, and then he sort of ran across the UK trying to conquer it. So let's imagine this half of the room here is your all Norman knights and ladies, and this half of the room over here, your Angles and Saxons. And you're all now sitting at a dinner table in my king's, I'm the king, hey, privileges of standing on stage. You're all in my dining hall, and you have raped and killed half of your family. You're not going to be particularly happy about it, are you? So what King William decided was that he would instigate a set of rules, a set of behaviour, a set of courtly conduct that you would all have to adhere to, because he didn't want half of his army killing the other half of his potential army most of the time, or having blood feuds, because you're all armed. And in those periods of time, in 1066 and all that, you drank alcohol, as you were doing this evening, because water was not good for you because it was generally infected, so you generally had to drink alcohol. Most British people drank beer at this moment in time, or a form of beer. So you were drunk, you were armed, and you were pissed off at each other. So actually pretty much nothing's changed. So basically King William said, right, okay, let's set up an issue of rules, some rules to instigate this. So he set up a set of courtly rules. And also at the same time, and just around this period of time, the Crusades happened. So we went off and invaded another country, as you do, and we sort of fought there for a number of years. And when the knights came back to England and Europe, they brought back with them a lot of culture, which you don't expect. We got napkins from that period of time, we get chess, we get mathematics, and we get courtly behaviour. The idea of the warrior poet comes from this period of time as well. So a lot of these knights came back and they were different, they were changed people. And they started to instigate, sets of things that came in through the Crusades. So like they would decide to write poetry and start to sing ballads in a more formal, traditional way. And so these rules came together, and they were first written down in a song called the Chanson de Roland, the Song of Roland, in about 1100. There's lots of historical debate about when it was written, but let's assume it's about 1100. And it told the tale of Roland, who was a knight of the great king Charlemagne. Anyone heard of Charlemagne? Well, okay, there we go. Charlemagne, he conquered most of Europe. He was a reasonably well-known king, did some good. And he basically, Roland was his knight, and it's the tale of Roland's betrayal, actually. But Roland lived by a chivalric code, and the Song of Roland wrote down this chivalric code. So there was 1066 in the Crusades, and this is the chivalric code. So there are 17 items on the chivalric code, and you would think that a chivalric code of knights is all about beating the crap out of your opponent. Actually, it's not. Most of it is about doing good and behaving, and there's lots of things in it which the modern code of chivalry should take forward. So live by honour and for glory. And what was taken out of this was a couple of things. So one was to respect the honour of women. So that was very important. It didn't say, put them on a pedestal, but it said respect. Respect is the honour of women. Respect is the key word in this. If you look through all of this, it's all about respect. It's about honour. It's not about anything else. And that's the chivalric code. So the chivalric code was about being the virtues of being a knight. And these were the codes. So the chivalry as we know it now is become just about women and the respect and the courtesy to women. But it was only one element of the chivalric code. So we need to think about this when we talk about chivalry. So what it takes to be a knight, all these 17 items. Some are a bit 1,000 years old, but some are important, you know, protect the weak and defenseless. These are good things. So you need to think about now how chivalry impacts your daily day actions. I see lots of Facebook quotes about the things that most successful people do, or habits that you know, great people and happy people do, and a lot of them have elements of these in, which is kind of interesting. So 1,000 years ago, this was in existence. So we have 1,000 years of the chivalry code. So, but let's talk about modern chivalry and where the chivalric ideals of being courtesy for women came from. So one of the aspects that came about this time was the idea of courtly love. So courtly love was another means of control for rampant young men who were drinking and armed and were set amongst a bunch of ladies who were not. And especially in a king or a knight's or a baron's household, he'd have his daughters, and he didn't want them to be rampaged by a bunch of armed men, effectively. So they set up the rules of courtly love, which was based on the chivalric code, and courtly love was about respecting and honouring women. And it was about the ideals of, it was sort of a cross between erotic desire, so you desired these ladies, but you would never engage in any kind of erotic behaviour because that was unseemly and ungood and against God and all that sort of thing. So it was all these rules of courtly love. There's 33 rules of courtly love, if I remember correctly. And they were very bizarre. I won't even go into them. It's so bizarre that you just kind of think, really? And one of the things of courtly love was respecting and honouring women. And that's where chivalry, as we know it today, comes from. So it was not chivalric code as we originally thought, but it was courtly love that really made chivalry as we call it today. So, chivalry today. What we normally consider chivalry today. And that's the holding open of doors. You know, the letting the lady get in the car first. This is the walking on the outside of the road. All these kind of acts are generally considered to be chivalrous. And they all actually stem from practical reasons. So for the reason why you walk on the outside of a road to the roadside of a pavement with a lady is, anyone know this?
So she can get dirty.
So she can't get dirty, yeah, exactly. So she can't get dirty. And also, even before that, was to protect her. So he could hold her, take her away from the danger which would generally come from a road. Why do you hold open doors for ladies? Anyone know that one? That's an interesting one. Why? Anyone? No?
Let her in first.
Yes, but why? There's a practical reason for it. Yeah, well, generally it was because ladies didn't want to get themselves dirty, number one. And number two, the doors were generally big, heavy wooden things, that ladies in those days weren't used to lugging open huge wooden doors. So I got James looking at me like, and also then, as we went on, ladies would wear gloves, and they wouldn't want to dirty their gloves as they opened the doors. So all the practical things that are behind the chivalric acts, as it were, are there. So when we talk about chivalry, we wonder, okay, where do they come from? Well, now you know. The most of all the chivalric acts that we talk about, as far as courtesy to women, come from practical reasons. They're also nice. Wouldn't you agree, ladies? Yeah, they're nice. You're nice to hold open the door, to be escorted, correctly along the street. Yeah, exactly. These are important things. These are nice. These are courtesies. These are politenesses. And that's what chivalry is all about. But it's kind of faded. And it's kind of gone out of fashion. And it's kind of gone away. And I think that's wrong. And basically, I think that what happened was we had a period of change. So after the Second World War, we got fed up with the elite, as it were, and chivalry was perceived to be an elite thing. We got fed up with all manner of men battling each other, and that was what the knights were thought of. And then social change. We had money coming into the equation, and people started to get equal and grow, and there wasn't the nobility there anymore to aspire to. And then also other things happened. The rise of feminism, which is a great thing. As a son of a single mum, I'm totally up for that. But we lost a load of things along the way. And one of the things we lost was being chivalrous all the way through. So, I implore you today, in my last minute of talking, is to go out there and do random acts of chivalry. Not random acts of kindness. That's there, that's out there, that's very good. But I want you to do random acts of chivalry. And random acts of chivalry are hand a handkerchief to a lady who may be crying, if you're a gentleman. You know, I always carry two. There's one in this pocket. And there's one in this pocket just to prove the point, so you don't think I'm lying. There you go. It's not a magic trick. And I, hold the door open. Stop and help a tourist if they're lost in the street. Not because they ask, because you see them with a map going, stop and help them. Let other people get on the bus first. Are you really in that much of a rush to get to work? So do random acts of chivalry. And go out there and be chivalrous. Thank you very much.